Islam is almost under attack in the media, mostly that everybody thinks, why is that all these terrorists are Muslims? Why is that they say God is great and go and bomb and kill people? What is going on? What's wrong with Islam? So, and also, I'm going to talk about actually what causes terrorism and how the terrorist organizations work, actually. How to form a terrorist organization. So I hope you don't want to try this on your own. After this, I'm sure we're going to get into trouble. But let's talk about the definition of terrorism. There is no actually very official definition in the sense that United Nations approval of this definition, but we have this the definition that is the most accurate one, the one that we have so far, and it is the use of violence. Please pay attention to this definition of terrorism, because we are going to evaluate and talk about this matter. As we talk about this issue, we are going to realize that, excuse me, I'm trying to find my pointer, if I can find it here, or, oh yeah, I can use this. The use of violence and intimidation. Use of violence and intimidation in the pursuit of political aims. So the terrorists use violence and intimidation to reach political aims. So terrorists are politically motivated. Either are part of an organization which is a political organization. So this really separates them from religious organization. This is a political organization, or have a political mind, that they use terrorism to launch violence, to intimidate, to reach their goal. And they want to have power. These are two, please remember these two, it's very important as we go along. Okay, so what, in order to, for the terrorism to grow, there has to be an environment. In that environment, if the environment doesn't exist, they cannot grow. They cannot survive, they cannot organize, they cannot recruit. And the environments of despair, humiliation, poverty, political oppression, extremism, and human rights abuse. These are some of them. Also flourish in the context of foreign occupation. And it profits from weak state capacity to maintain law and order. So if the state is not able to have enough control over its citizens, they have a tendency to grow there. But it does not mean that all of them apply to the environment. Sometimes one might be more, or the other factor might be more important in the environment. It's just like when your body gets sick. When the body is sick, there are all kinds of things that affect the body in order to get sick. And these are some of the factors. But we really don't know which one is important, more important in terms of a specific terrorist organization. What is the main goal? To send a powerful message, although they are not powerful themselves. Actually, they are very weak organizations, politically. But what they do, they send a powerful message by doing something tragic, like beheading people. Just imagine one person or two persons unable to create so much terror in the hearts of the people. that the presidents of the several countries come to the streets, for example in France. Can you believe it? That means that one very powerful message, also they are very weak, 2 or 3 persons, to recruit. That is another problem with terrorists, to recruit more terrorists and sympathizers and finally new members. That's a problem with terrorists, that they cannot find recruits. So they try to use ideologies, they try to find some kind of context that deliver their message in order to get more recruits. Okay, who are the followers? So now we are saying that the leaders are politicians. The leader of terrorist organizations are politicians. The followers are usually very uninformed, hard-headed people, oppressed, usually with serious issues. They have issues with discrimination, they have issues with humiliation, they have major issues. And then their worldview is very small. They don't see beyond black and white, good and bad, and God and evil. They just things like that. They cannot think beyond that small environment that they live. The mindset is very small. So the terrorist organizations hide themselves behind ideology. For example, if it is a religious or it is a national message, or more like nationalism, it depends on the time. Terrorism has been here for thousands of years. We have had always, as humans, terrorist organizations. But recently we have more, and since 1980 we have terrorism under Islam. But before that we never had anything like that. This is a new phenomenon because it works. The environment is receptive to it. So the terrorists, the leaders, the political leaders of terrorist organizations know how to use Islam because it's appealing to a lot of people. Just imagine a terrorist, so many recruits come from all different countries who are Muslim to join because they are naive, they have an issue with where they work and where they live. So this appeals to them because we as human beings usually do not do research on different issues. We just work on images and symbols. That's how the politicians get us to vote for them. They get us to join them. That's the trick, because just imagine those who are more Christians, who claim Christian, how much they know about Christianity. Do you read the Bible? No, we don't. We usually go to church and the pastor is going to choose a topic for us and tell us and kind of lead us. After that we become really nice to each other in the church, and after the church is over we come and go back to the same behavior. So we don't have time to read and investigate and do research. That's the same way for everyone. So the politicians use symbols, they use messages in order to get us, the messages that appeal to us. And that's what terrorist organizations do. So they're behind ideologies, religions, or set of values that are well known and powerful. Those ideologies, those things are powerful, they are appealing, like nationalism. Like, I am Korean, I am Chinese, I am American. This is something that, gives you pride. What is pride? What is American? What is Chinese? What is Korean? We don't really know that much. It's the values. Okay, Islam actually serves them because it is a powerful tool and can justify their actions for uneducated. Mostly uneducated people are the followers. Not the educated are the leaders, the politicians. Okay, as I said, depending on the context and era, terrorism flourished. Like there was a time that there was a war between the like Northern Ireland. You remember? I mean, probably you guys don't remember. Several years ago, there was always terrorist activities. Catholics versus Protestants. That was the theme. There was a time that Palestinians, they used to do a lot of terrorist activities. It had nothing to do with Islam. But because of this is very important, because of some major developments in the Middle East since 1980, we are witnessing growing terrorism in the name of Islam. So for those of you who are familiar with this area, this is called the Middle East, and this is Asia here. Asia starts here, and Europe starts here, and Africa starts here. So Middle East is where all these three great continents, they meet each other. And that's considered actually the major human civilization, where actually human civilization starts. Because if you go to the Middle East, you see all kinds of people, because all these civilizations meet in the Middle East. This area, except Iran, this part was under Ottoman Empire until before World War I. It was called the Ottoman Empire. And then when Ottoman Empire was defeated in 1911, was World War I, 1920, World War I, all these countries fell into hands of British and France. So British and France took control of this area. So on the other hand, something else happened, has been happening in Europe, and it was the persecution of Jews. The Jews did not like the Europeans did not like the Jews, and the Jews decided to migrate to the Middle East. Because that's where, in this part, that's where Jerusalem is. And they said, we are Jews, we are going to go back to Jerusalem. That's where our origin is. So Hitler did a lot of genocide, as you see, genocide of the Jews, and many Jews got killed during that period. This was a very human tragedy. And then what happened in that part of the world, look at it here. This is, as I said, this part of the Middle East was under British and France. So this part was under French, this part was under British, and also this part. So British, this area was called Palestine. This is when the British took over the area. And then, so the British carved it out in 1923 to 1979. They called this Palestine. They created this country here called Jordan. And this also, the French created a country called Lebanon here. So as you know, these are new creations. And the Jews started coming here because from Europe. And they were Zionists. Jews. And the British was saying, okay, they accepted them. The Arabs didn't have anything to do with the populations of Arabs didn't have anything to do with racism and all that stuff. that was going on, or against religious discrimination, because the Middle Easterners have become exposed to diversity from the beginning of time, from all these continents meet there. So they don't have these assumptions of race and so-called discrimination against religions. Therefore, the Jews coming here, and then the British started noticing that they are having conflict now, the Arabs. So there are so many Jews are coming, and there are too many. So they said, no more, no more. So they started, resisting it. And that's when the Zionists, which was another movement in Europe, which started in the early, late 1800, 1900. Also, they armed themselves, and they started fighting the government of Britain. And they blew up, actually, the first terrorist attack was on British hotel in Jerusalem by the Zionist Jews, which they killed 91 people because the British didn't want them to come so many. So that was the start of terrorism in modern terms in the Middle East. So let's talk, I think you might have seen this. This is Palestine in 1946. As you see, the green part is the Palestinian people, and the white part is the Jews. So when this bomb happened, bombing of David Hotel, King David Hotel happened in 1939 actually. The British just said, well, I'm not going to have anything to do with this. This is a major conflict. I'm going to give it to the United Nations. So United Nations set a committee, and they divided Palestine into British, Arabs and Jews. So this was the 1946. In 1947, United Nations divided Palestine into two parts. This is Arabs, green part, and white Jews. And the Arabs said, why? We are so many here. These are all Arabs. Why should you give us such a little land? So the fight started. The Arabs did not accept that, but the Jews accepted and started attacking Palestinians. So then the Palestinians were defeated all the time. And they kept losing land, and finally this is the situation right now in so-called Palestine, and now we call it Israel. So this blood shedding and fight has been going on since 1948, when Israel actually claimed to actually announce its independence. And we as a country, United States, was the first country that actually recognized Israel 11 minutes right after Israel announced its independence or announced its foundation as a country. And since then we have been unconditionally supporting Israel. But the thing is, I'm not going to take time to read all this bloodshed between the Arabs and Jews. Since then has been wars after wars, terrorism after terrorism, and we have helped Israelis 100% in this helping them. So these are wars between the Arabs and too much timing to read all that. So the Israelis are getting more stronger because we support them with money, we support them with all the most sophisticated weapons we have, and Arabs are not really able to resist any kind of resistance. First, intifada. Intifada actually means that it's an Arabic word. It simply means uprising. So, because they could not do anything through military means, that the people, all people in the areas, they rise up against the Israelis. In that, so then they have second intifada, and then there is another war, and there is war that was going on, and finally we have seen even last year, that the Israelis and Gaza, the Palestinians were fighting, and about 2,000 Palestinians were killed, and 76 Israelis were killed. So somebody might well say, why is that 2,000 Israeli Palestinians versus 76? Because of the weapons they have, because the most sophisticated bombers and tanks, and Palestinians do not have access to those things. So what we see, the Middle East is this. This is the situation of the Middle East. Anger. House of anger. House of wars. Everybody is accusing, you killed somebody from my family, then the war goes on. Tit for tat, tit for tat, tit for tat has been going on. And this is the situation has been for 60 years. The Israeli flag, the Palestinian flag, right now the Palestinians are able to actually show their flag. Because before that, if you had a flag, you are not supposed to show it, they would kill you. So if you really want honestly to evaluate, this picture really evaluates the situation between Israelis and Palestinians. Palestinians, this is Palestinians, with not much of anything to fight back. They might have some, recently in Gaza, they have some very primitive, handmade, or maybe a little bit of help that they secretly import some weapons, very primitive. So that's how they fight, and the Israelis have the most sophisticated weapons. And that's the very unfair war that is going on. So what does this do? Okay, just in the mind of the Palestinians versus these people, Palestinians are majority. Let me mention this, majority of most people in the Middle East are also Muslim. Muslims, 90% are Muslim. This is also remembered. Okay, now think about it. There is another thing in Islam that all Muslims are considered connected to each other, as called ummah, means they are nations. Islam does not recognize political boundaries. So if you are a Muslim in the United States, you are connected to the Muslims in Indonesia. If something happens to that Muslim, you have to, that's your obligation, that you have to sympathize and help that person. That is the religion of Islam. Islamic Ummah means the nation of Islam, that no matter who they are, boundaries do not matter. So just imagine now, we as the United Nations, the most powerful country in the world, give as much help as Israel wants, not just military help, but we are talking about financial help. And the problem is they never listen to us. They do anything they like over there. We tell them, I don't think it is right to do this. But they do that, they don't listen. And then we have to support them. It's like a child that we raised, spoil this child, and the child is now a big man, arrogant man, doesn't listen, kicks, yells, and do anything he wants to do, and we can't control. And what happens is always backfires on us, because they can't do anything to Israel. What they do is that we pay the price for what is actually going on over there. Okay, just let me go to another topic. Please don't forget what I said so far. I'm going to another part. Violence in the field of religion. Now, religions are not something that you just go to church and read about it, or you go to mosque and read about it. Religions, all three religions that we have, they are all called Abrahamic religions. They come first is Judaism, then Judaism is Christianity comes from Judaism, and Islam comes from Christianity. Actually, some of you might be surprised that Jesus is as respected in Islam as Muhammad is. Jesus is Mary, for example. There is a chapter in the Quran about Mary, about Jesus and the miracles of Jesus and the Messiah, and they pray to Jesus. Muslims believe Jesus is as respectful as Muhammad. So all three religions are called Abrahamic. They worship the same God. Muslims worship the God of Abraham. But these religions are not exactly what you read in the you know about in the church. They all have had violence in the past. And violence has been in Islam, because when the religions start, the people who were called pagans or infidels, or the people who did not believe in God, they wanted to kill them as they crucified Jesus. That's violence, wasn't it? You know early Christians, how many early Christians were killed? They couldn't say, I'm a Christian. For many, many years, the Christians were hiding their identity because they would kill them. Muslims were the same way. And Muhammad, when he started his preaching, when he went to Medina from Mecca, they expelled him. He escaped. They wanted to kill him. And they killed a lot of his followers in Mecca. And then he escaped to Medina. And then when he escaped there were revelations. Muslims believe that Muhammad received revelations from God. And that God allowed him to defend himself. That's why you see in the Quran violent surahs that ask for fight. But the problem is that these terrorist organizations, they use these religious surahs out of context. I'll show you some of them now. Okay, let's talk about Abrahamic religion. I already talked about Judaism and Christianity. They have all had violent pasts. And every religion, secular or even any religion or secular ideology, there is always a matter of interpretation. When you read a book, that's what your teachers, when they ask you to read a book and tell me what it is, what do you think about it? You see, everybody has a different understanding. Why? Because your mind is different. So you can pick up things from a book that fits your own ideology, what you want to hear. That's exactly, you can pick up violence from Quran or violence even from Bible, and you can pick up peace and harmony. It depends. And that's why politicians are good at to manipulate the people using, and the people don't know, they don't know, go and read the books in their entirety. Okay? Okay, that's the matter of interpretation. Let's read this surah from Quran. And kill them wherever you find them. This is Surah 2, 191. And drive them out from whence they drove you out. And persecution is severer than slaughter. And do not fight with them at the sacred mosque until they fight you in it. But if they do fight you, then slay them. Such is the recompense of the unbelievers. So this is the fight with the unbelievers. The Islam actually allows the killing of those who attack you. So this can be easily used. They can monsterize the people who are anybody who they want, and they say these are unbelievers and they have attacked us, we are supposed to kill them. So very easy. Let's go to the Old Testament. I want to read you something from the Old Testament for those of you who are scholars of the Old Testament. Please tell me what you think. Deuteronomy 20:10-17. This is God ordered the Israelites. What does God tell them? When you approach a city, God wanted them to make these Israelites believe in God. And this, God asked the Israelites go to make people or unbelievers to believe in God. So he said, God said, when you approach a city to fight against it, you shall offer it terms of peace. If it agrees to make peace with you and opens to you, then all the people who are found in it shall become your forced labor and shall serve you. So it means that first of all you go and tell them we want a peace. If they accept it, so they are under your control. They are all your servants. And then say, however, it does not make, if they do not make peace with you, but make war against you, then you shall besiege it. When the Lord your God gives it into your hand, you shall strike all the men in it with edge of the sword. Means kill all of us. Only then the women and the children and the animals and all that is in it, in that city, all its spoil, you shall take as booty for yourself. And you shall use the spoil of your enemies, which the Lord your God has given you. Only in the cities of these peoples that the Lord your God is given you as an inheritance, you shall not leave alive anything that breathes. Can you believe this? When you read this, you can easily use that to do exactly what ISIS is doing. Consider some people who are not Christian, Israelites, and go and massacre them. We have seen the people in the history of Christianity, crusaders. Those who are history majors, you see what has been happening. In the name of Jesus, wars, conquistadors. Those who are history major, I'm not going to go to those. These are the name of Jesus. Look at in our country, Ku Klux Klan, cross, carrying cross. And they were the people who were massacred African Americans and do all kinds of stuff to the people in the name of religion. And they believe they are religious. In the name of Jesus. Hitler popular. He came to power in Germany with what? Popular vote. He was the person who massacred the Jews. Now let Hitler, what Hitler said about Jesus. Look, some people say Hitler was not a Christian. Hitler said in one of his speeches, "My feeling as a Christian points me to my Lord and Savior as a fighter. It points me to the man who once in loneliness," means Jesus, "surrounded by a few followers, recognized these Jews for what they were and summoned men to fight against them." How terrific was his fight for the war against the Jewish poison. As a Christian, I have no duty to allow myself to be cheated, but I have the duty to be a fighter for truth and justice. Hitler is fighting for truth and justice by massacring millions of innocent people and using truth and justice in the name of Jesus. As a Christian, I have also a duty to my own people. And this is the reference. But what Jesus said, this is what Jesus is. "But I tell you, love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you." That's what Jesus is. But see how the message is totally twisted? So I told you about more 90% of the Muslims are people in the Middle East are Muslims. They all consider one nation. No matter who you are, how you look like, where you are, they are all considered one nation. Again, no political boundaries. Okay. So now, let's look at the U.S. role. U.S. as a country. We have two objectives in the Middle East. We have been having one. One is security of Israel. I don't want to get into that because that is another issue, another topic. But it makes us a collaborator with Israel and guilty by association for whatever Israel does. So we actually support Israel all together. And then the other objective we have is access to all reserves. But the problem is that these two goals are contradictory. Because from one hand, Arabs have the oil, or Muslims have the oil, and then we support the security of the Israel. And now we want to have both. We want to have the cake and eat it too, right? So that's why the problem is. That's why we have unconditional support for Israel, finance, military, international support, and the Western world also lead us. Follow us because we are the leader of the Western world. And what about the Israelis? They have taken full advantage of the relationship and has not done enough to diffuse the anger and have used American power to almost do anything that benefits their own national interest. They don't care about our national interest, American national interest. So that is because our policies are contradictory, there is a paradox. So what we have done, we have supported dictatorship because we have to keep some people in power over there in order to what? To listen to us. No matter what the people want. Because Muslims in that area, the people are angry. But there has to be somebody out there who says, shut up, we are going to give the oil flow to the people. That's why we have to have dictators there. And acquire military bases in the Persian Gulf, which is the main waterway for oil flow of oil. And also we make sure that we have hegemony over the area. We have power to control the events there. That is because of our paradoxical policies. During the Cold War, you know, there was a war between the Soviets and the United States, or the West in general. Israelis really served us well because they would collect information, they give it to us, very reliable. The Soviet Union is gone. Israel used to be a policeman, no longer is needed really. So now at this point in my judgment, Israel is more of a burden to us. It has over 200, between 200 to 400 atomic weapons with no check. Nobody can check their weapons of mass destruction. It's not a member of NPT, Non-Proliferation Treaty, means that they can produce any atomic weapons they want. And it has hegemonic military power in the region and strike at any country in the region. So what has done this, it has humiliated the people in the Middle East for 60 years. That is, I'm telling you, a lot of problems we have is that those people have been humiliated for many, many years. They feel that a Muslim land is occupied, they don't have freedom, the dictators are supported by another government. A foreign country has bases in our region, and that's why we have all kinds of problems we have been having with this. Okay, so now let's go back to the terrorist organization. So terrorist organizations, they act like politicians. They use this situation. They use this people's satisfaction. And the leaders and followers, they are brainwashed, they are indoctrinated. And then also follow blindly whatever the leader says. Let me go faster because we don't have much time. I'm going to go faster. So, the first time that actually Islam was used as a military, as a political force was in 1979 in Iran, when there was a revolution. The Shah was overthrown. Khomeini took power. A religious man have power over the country was very unprecedented. Then invasion of Afghanistan happened in 1980. You know, here is Ronald Reagan is meeting with these guys who are religious people to fight with the Soviet Union. These are Taliban. Listen, this is very important. Now we realize religion is very powerful. Let's use it against the Soviets, godless Soviets. And they said yes, they fought. Okay, Cold War between the Soviet Empire and the West with the leadership of US, Soviet invaded Afghanistan, godless regime invaded a Muslim country, okay? So how they did actually develop Taliban, United States, Pakistan, which is an Islamic country, and what? And Saudi Arabia with money. They put together and build up ideologies. These were mostly students in religious, Islamic religious schools. They give them money, they give them, arm them, and they fought the Soviet Union. And Osama bin Laden was one of them. So we actually helped creating Osama bin Laden to fight the Soviets. So after the Soviets were defeated actually, and Soviets were thrown out of Afghanistan. And then what happens after that, the Soviet Empire dissolved in 1993, right? So back then, Osama bin Laden created its own organization called Al-Qaeda, and actually it opposed the US. It says the US is the same as the Soviet Union. They are occupying Muslim lands, they are helping Israel, so we have to fight US now. See how things change. Okay, now new development. 9/11 happened. Invasion of Iraq. Very important event. Murder of Osama bin Laden. It actually exacerbated the standing issue about Islam versus the West. Now it's really Islam, like in the mind of the ordinary people. This is Iraq, invasion of Iraq, occupation of Iraq. Saddam Hussein. Who was Saddam Hussein? A man, a dictator who killed his enemies, but he had a lot of followers himself because he opposed Israel. This must surprise you. Saddam Hussein was the most important supporter of Israel. The most enemy of Israel, because he was trying to get popular support. The people are dissatisfied with Israel. Saddam Hussein is a dictator. In order to get support, he opposes Israel. He had a lot of people who supported it. Palestinians supported it. We actually, what do we do? Executed the symbol of power. The man who said, I will liberate Palestine and destroy Israel, now is dead. Treatment of prisoners in Abu Ghraib. Iraqi prisoners. You remember all those things. Look how these things affect the minds of a Muslim. A person in Iraq. Remember all those. In Afghanistan, our soldiers burned Quran. In some cases, urinated on it. And you know this is a globalization. The Muslims see this, they hear of it. What else is remained of their identity? Nothing. That's how they feel. I'm just telling you. Especially those who are radical, who are real believers, not those who have a little bit of belief. This is in Indonesia. When the Quran was burned, you said, damn you, U.S. Army. There were demonstrations all over the world against the United States by Muslims. Here, our troops are urinating on some of the bodies, the corpses of Afghans, or like who were Taliban, who were actually in favor of Osama bin Laden. So now what Quran says about this. Let not hatred of any people seduce you that you deal not justly. Deal justly, that is nearer to your duty. Observe your duty to God, though God is informed of what you do. So just imagine in the Muslim mind, the West, especially the United States, is actually as a very unjust and Now everything comes together, create the most dangerous terrorist organization. Because the ideology, the hatred is there, the vehicle is there, all it needs is some organization. Also something else happened that it helped, and that happened when the new government in Iraq, they alienated the Sunnis from power. Sunnis were the followers of Saddam Hussein, who were 20% or 25% of Iraqi, and they ruled Iraq for almost since 1935. And now they are stripped of power, and they did not even treat them well. So now there is a hatred for Sunni, for Shiites. Shiite is a branch of Islam. Islam has two branches, Sunni and Shia. Shia is the minority, about 20%, and Sunnis are about 80%, or maybe 85% or 15%. There is no enough. So now they are looking for an ideology to justify all of this, and they found one: Wahhabism. Wahhabism is an ideology, is another sect of Islam that goes to the beginning of Islam and says that whoever is, they believe that we have to go to the early times of Islam. Just like we are the time of Muhammad. Just imagine that. So at the time of Muhammad there was no Shiites. Shiites split. It's just like the time of Jesus there was a Protestant, right? Like the Protestant, our Catholic says that Protestants are wrong because there was no Protestants when early Christians were all Catholics. I mean, they were just, what is Protestant? It's the same way. So, and these people believe that they are all infidels. We are the right ones. So everyone has to be killed and destroyed. And then also another element was added. Power vacuum in Syria because of Arab Spring. That also helped it. Wahhabism, I talked about Wahhabism. They think they are the purest Muslims. They are the ones who know everything. I'm going to, okay. So now the creation of the most dangerous and the most equipped terrorist organization in the Middle East. These are massacring Shiites in Iraq. I mean, I don't think you can find in the history of humanity such a dangerous organization. Okay, that's the end. We have about exactly we met the timetable. So if there is any question or comment, let's talk about it. I kind of rushed at the end because I wanted to make sure that we have time to talk and get it out of our chest. Yes, sir.
If Islam doesn't recognize borders, wouldn't one step towards a solution be to assimilate Palestinians into other countries?
That is a very good question. Did everybody hear that? Yes. Okay, Islam does not recognize borders. Why not just assimilate Palestinians? Because that is the actual so-called slogan But in practice, almost countries are controlled by a group, and if they try to nationalize the actual power as much as possible. And in fact, I'll tell you, when Israelis when the Zionists drove the Palestinians out of Palestine, when they went to Arab countries, they did not accept them to their own society. They said, you have to stay in refugee camps because I want you not to forget to fight back and go back to Palestine. So this is great question, great idea, but it's on, the political leaders don't want that.